Okay. Los geht's.
Los geht's?
Los geht's.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the CrossFit Kaiserslautern FITCAST, Kristen.
Episode 5, Max.
5!
That was 10. I meant 5.
We are going to answer a couple of community questions.
Yes.
They're all training related.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let's jump into it. Yeah?
Okay.
First question. CrossFit in preparation for other sports or competitions. For example, a triathlon, a marathon. Does CrossFit help? How does CrossFit help? What's the deal?
What is the deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, CrossFit is a really good training tool for other sports because other sports are so specific with what they're training. Take running. You're working on your running and your cardiovascular system, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Whereas CrossFit, you get the strength training, the gymnastics, the endurance, the cardio, the skill, the mind, all of it's being trained, which translates to other sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like if runners did, and I'm not talking like ultra marathon runners that need to be as light as possible, but just recreational runners or like marathon runners in general would probably be better off strength training a little bit more, because the more muscle you have on your body to a certain extent, that still allows you to run efficiently. You're able to process oxygen better in the body, which means your endurance can be better. And for runners, that's a good thing, especially if you're long distance running. So CrossFit trains things that you can utilize for your other sports.
Also, you need muscles to keep your bones in place, because that's the purpose of our musculature.
To keep our skeleton up.
Yeah. Okay, what about other sports? Like, because CrossFit does not want to specialize. Yeah, so therefore, I think CrossFit is perfect for any sport, because any sport needs fitness.
Yes.
And what does CrossFit enhances?
Fitness,
right. When this is back in the days, this is a couple of years back, I used to do 10Ks that are here around the area.
What?
Yeah, I love 10Ks. But I would never train for them. I would never train running specifically. I would never go just run.
But you were doing CrossFit.
I was doing CrossFit, and I was just fine doing the 10Ks. And then I also did a half marathon distance in a OCR type race, obstacle course, which I was totally fine with, without having ran for a long time before that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily promote that.
No?
If you're going to be running a marathon and stuff, like, you should cross-train a little bit and do longer effort runs.
Absolutely.
But CrossFit definitely prepares you in other ways that will help benefit running or whatever sport you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, not specializing is what we do.
It's also something we want to, or which we're trying to do with our teens and kids program. Yeah, because they are usually doing other sports, which is cool. We just want to help them work on good movements and having fun with it. Yeah, because that's sometimes falls a little short in other sports training, because they have so much other things to do, like tactics and techniques for throwing a ball, for kicking a ball, whatever. There's only so many hours they can train for, and fitness or general movements fall short sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the team sports for kids, it's probably changed now because I'm older, but when I was younger and playing tennis, I know we did a whole lot of training tennis, and our cardiovascular side, like running sprints and suicides across 5 tennis courts, which was really shitty because there's a lot of lines to touch. But we were never weight training. There was no strength training of any kind. And so I think a lot of sports, especially younger kids, they miss out on that portion specifically, and CrossFit offers that in a fun way for them to like, they're still working on their cardiovascular system, not sport specific, just in general.
Yeah.
And then they're also getting the strength training they need to keep their bodies safe and moving efficiently in the sports that they play.
Yeah. It's a perfect segue into our next question, which is, how is CrossFit preventing diseases or injuries? Yeah, both.
I love this question
Yeah.
because it's the base of CrossFit. This is why we do what we do. Not enough exercise and bad nutrition increases your chances of chronic disease.
Yeah.
And when we say chronic disease, we mean like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes,
Cancer,
certain
types,
high cholesterol,
Yeah.
those kind of things are chronic diseases. So the more you sit still and don't exercise and the poorer you eat, the higher your risk is for these chronic diseases.
Yeah.
And so what CrossFit offers is exercise to combat the sedentary life or work life that you have.
Yeah.
And
that we all have.
yeah. And also a platform to talk about and make better decisions for nutrition and other things in your life that will make you healthier and lower that risk for chronic disease and injuries as well.
Yeah. Like our nutrition challenge we just wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. Day-to-day training and healthier choices for nutrition help preventing diseases. So in the what we just talked about, the kids and the good movements and the strength training, how does that prevent injuries, for example?
So both strength training and cardio training release or have a hormonal response, right? Different hormones. The easiest one to talk about with exercise, period, is endorphins, right? It releases endorphins. Endorphins make you happy. They make you feel good. They better your mood. So exercise promotes mental health. And then strength training also releases, has a hormonal response, and things like your bone density can increase, which prevents breakage and,
when you get in a car accident or when you
less
fall or
less likely to break things.
Stuff like that.
So there's all kinds of healthy benefits to, like, we're not talking about like bodybuilder musculature, where you're like this giant hulk of a man or woman. But like healthy musculature is good.
Yeah. What about just doing one or the other? I mean, we touched on the cardiovascular part, like only doing running. What about leaving out the metabolic conditioning piece and just doing strength training?
Then you're missing out on training your heart.
Yeah.
Essentially, the cardiovascular side is training your heart to be strong, to pump blood through your body efficiently. It has so many healthy benefits.
Yeah.
It raises all the good health markers to get us towards healthy.
And helps lower the bad ones.
Yeah, and lowers the bad ones so we stay away from sick and we're more towards healthy.
Yeah. Cool. Next question. How can I improve my training in order to be constantly improving myself?
This is a really cool question because you can look at it from two different sides. Improving your training to improve yourself, you can look at it from a physical standpoint or a mental standpoint. And on the physical side, CrossFit in general is constantly varied. And the more you can vary things, the more adaptable you are, both like physically and mentally, actually.
The more you work on the 10 different aspects of fitness.
The more varied you can make everything you're doing, the better your body responds to outside influences. And then on the mental side of that, you can better your training to better yourself by intentional training. So doing what you're doing purposefully. You don't want to just, I mean, you can, we all have these days, but you want to try not to show up, like, say, for example, to a workout and be like, I'm just going to, like, lift this weight and throw it around. I don't really care how I'm moving. I don't really care what I'm doing. You're probably not going to feel great about what you do in that workout after you're done. You showed up, but the intent wasn't there. If you focus on making sure I'm going to, like, even from the warm-up, I'm going to start my warm-up intentionally, breathing slowly. I'm intentionally going to, like, count 10 seconds with my elbow towards the floor in the Spider-Man, 10 seconds up in the twist. Not that long, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you're counting, you're breathing, you're making sure you're moving the way you're supposed to be moving. This
not
prepares
just going
you.
through the motion.
Yeah. You want to do it with intent, because that's where the progress happens. When you're intentionally doing something, you put effort into it, and then you make progress. And that's where your training will start to improve in ways that you want it to, based on where you're putting your effort.
And also, I think a missed point on intentional training a lot of times is the intensity. We always try to give a certain stimulus with the workout of the day, and if you, and like you said, we all have those days, and that's totally fine to have a day where you're not able to, where you don't want to. That's totally fine. But in general, if you're looking to improve your training, look to improve your intensity. Ask your coach how you can ramp up intensity in a specific workout, but usually adding intensity, going for those 100% in every single workout, that's where you're gonna improve over time.
Yes, and when he says 100%, he means 100% effort, not 100% like going for your max every time. It's different. But putting 100% effort into what you're doing, absolutely. And knowing the difference, that being said, with stimulus, we give a class stimulus for our workouts, but improving your training along those lines, if your personal goals are to, say, work on a specific movement, then, and you're not quite there yet, say double unders, you're working on your double unders, that's where you can change the stimulus for your personal goals a little bit, where you know you're going to be moving a little bit slower instead of fast on single unders, but it's specified specifically to work on something you want to work on to improve. But again, that's your intent. You're putting intention into your work on the double unders. And so maybe if you take a little bit longer than the intended workout, that's okay, because
you want to work on double unders.
Yes, your effort is in the double unders.
Thank you. It's another perfect segue into the next question, which is, what about RX versus scaled? Can I RX? Should I RX? Should I scale? Can I scale? You can always scale. And just a friendly reminder, you can scale down
or up. Yes, people forget about the up. So...
And I think the double under is a perfect example, because it doesn't involve weight. As it involves skill and technique versus intensity, or technique with intensity changes. And that's where most of people struggle with double unders.
So the can I versus should I is a really good question for scaled versus RX. And I think it depends on the situation, honestly. There's a couple different scenarios. So if you can do 5 double unders, you can do 5 double unders, but there's 100 double unders in a workout. Should you spend 10 minutes trying to do 100 double unders?
Probably.
5 at a time? Or should you scale back to single unders, or give yourself a time limit on double unders, so you may not hit 100, but you're still working on them? And the answer is it depends, I think. Because, again, is your intent to improve on double unders, or do you just want to get a good workout today and sweat? If so, go to single unders and get sweaty. If you want to work on double unders, then give yourself that time limit. Don't go 10, 20 minutes working on one thing, and work on your skill. But also knowing that scaling isn't like doing less work. That's why we have scaling options in CrossFit, is so everybody can get the same stimulus, the same end product out of the workout to what they're capable of doing. And the only time I would say, not the only time, but one of the times that it is like you have to pick one or the other is in a competition setting, say the Open coming up. You're going to have to decide RX or scaled for each workout, and if there's a workout that says, you know, do 10 muscle ups and you've only ever done like maybe one on a good day, and that's the first thing in the workout, you don't want to do one muscle up and be done for a 10-minute AMRAP.
Yeah.
So then you would choose to scale that so that you can continue through the competition.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the situations where scaling actually gets you to do more or makes you to do more work.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced scaled workouts that are significantly harder than RX workouts, because you can do more work in a shorter amount of time, because the skill is not as high, the load is not as heavy, where you don't have to put the barbell or the dumbbell down as much, and that increases the intensity, and that's gonna have you die at
when
the end.
the skill goes down, so say muscle ups versus pull ups, or double unders versus single unders. Someone who can do muscle ups or double unders, maybe not the best at them, but can do them, that chooses to do pull ups and single unders instead, is going to be able to push a lot harder in the scaled movements because the skill is less, but they're going to be dying by the end of it because they can push a little bit harder in those movements.
Which actually, in that case, improved their fitness more than having gone with the RX version.
Higher skill movements have nothing to do with fitness and health.
Yeah.
It's just a higher skill level. So if you're not a competitive athlete or have no want or desire to be a competitive athlete, those higher skill movements shouldn't necessarily be a priority. Your intent behind what you're doing, and does RX or scaled get me that intent, allow me to put that effort in where I need it, and that's when you make the decision.
Yeah. That's a perfect segue into promoting our next episode.
Yes.
Which will be about our class structure, kind of behind the curtains, or we're pulling back the curtains about why we do what we do and how we do what we do. And one of the things we're going to talk about is that skill training portion of a class, and why it is important, not important, whatever. So I think we're done with our community questions training related. Yeah.
I think we hit all of them.
Yeah. If you want to do us a favor, like and subscribe. That helps a ton. And again, if you wanna learn more about our class structure and
why we do what we do, tune in next week.
See you guys.